half of the meeting. Tonight we have a special guest, a candidate that ran last year and who's going to be running in the upcoming election next year for 2nd Congressional District. And please help me welcome Daria Novak, candidate for Congress.
I'm in the right place here.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for letting me come back and speak to you. I get so excited when I'm in a group that I agree with. It's hard sometimes being on the road when you're dealing with progressives and those that just don't understand or don't get it. So when I heard, like, for instance, Estelle talking about the Constitution, it's like, oh, my heart's warm. I just feel really good about it. We've handed these out so often everywhere, and we're going to continue to do it again in this coming campaign. It's just so critical that we follow it, and I don't need to go through with you why this type of legislation, there you are, why this legislation is important, to keep us free, and that's in essence what it is. Right now, the way I look at it, it's war by other means. There's no two ways about it. We have to fight hard for everything, and the only reason I'm in politics is specifically because I want my kids to live free, to be able to have the same opportunities that I had. And when you were talking earlier about what it's like to be in politics and the compromises that are expected of you, it is amazing what they do to you or try to do to you when you do stand strong. But I've got a thick skin. I'm going to do it again. I'm determined that we are going to flip Connecticut. I stayed strong, and they told me I couldn't win the state convention. I was a first-time candidate. They told me, you don't play with the party politics, the party machine. You can't do this. We did it, and we did it when they said we couldn't. This time we're going to go all the way. We're going to take Courtney out and send him into the retirement home, as far as I'm concerned, for politicians. And what we're going to do is we're going to do it the same way we did last time, in a principled manner. We don't need dirty politics. We don't need name-calling. We're going to hit him on the issues. And he has given us every opportunity. There's so many things that we can talk about, whether it's health care or other bills out there. He has voted the wrong way on almost every single issue. He's not listening to the people of Connecticut. And what I'm going to do is to talk about my experience down in Washington when I was young and working for the State Department, and the fact that I did make it up to the level of a presidential appointee. And then I came back to Connecticut, where I was born and raised, to raise my children. And I had no intention of running for office until they started doing things to us, not for us in Washington. I believe that we, the people, own this government. It's our government, and we should be in control of it. We shouldn't have politicians in Hartford or Washington telling us how to run bathrooms, what type of weapons, how many bullets you can put in. I mean, it's just so many things you could go through, and I don't need that laundry list for you tonight. I know you know it. But we're going to start early. I don't like the idea of having to come out for Congress and run for 2 years in order to do a job that's only 2 years. But here's the reality. It takes money and time. I'm a grassroots candidate. We're raising money now. I have a staff in place. We have a professional consulting firm this time out of D.C. that is helping us with some of this to really professionalize the campaign and expand it. We need help, obviously, raising money as any candidate. That's the bane of our existence, having to ask you for money when I know it's your hard-earned money. That's the hardest thing for me to do, is to go around and say, please, even tonight, if you could contribute $5, because we'll come out at the end of June with a report that says how many people, because each of those $5 is hard-earned money from Connecticut citizens that understand that we have to flip the state. So what we're doing this week, just to give you an idea of how the campaign is going, we are literally starting a bilingual campaign with me going into Hispanic areas in Norwich with a team of people. I speak Chinese. My Spanish is a little bit weak, so I've got people around me that will help with the Spanish if we get into the issues too much. Problem with me is I studied Spanish before I took Chinese, and now when I speak Spanish, if I don't remember a word, I throw a Chinese one in. so I've been up in Norwich before, and I start, and all of a sudden the Chinese starts coming out, and they're looking at me, no, I'm Hispanic, you don't get it. So I'm trying real hard. So we've got a team, and we're going to go into all the areas where Courtney normally considers himself to own those people. The Democrats think that if it's a minority group, it's automatically theirs. It's not. There are a lot of hardworking people out there, just like the rest of us, and we need to address them. They are facing the same issues as we are there with what the government is doing to us. So we're going to take on that. We obviously, the same thing as last time. We need to decrease the size of government. We need to stop the spending, the extreme control of Washington. We need to create jobs in the private sector. I'm going to be aggressive talking about that we have to pay down the debt. We need to get rid of parts of the government. I'd like to see us get rid of things like the Department of Education. Afraid to say it. And when I went down to D.C. and worked there early in my career before I started a small business, I spoke my mind and I did not change. I came back here because I don't believe that anyone should work in Washington their whole lives. So I spent the first 10 years of my life doing that, and I learned about how Washington works. That's why I'm raising my kids back here in Connecticut. I don't want what's going on down there to be part of their growing up. I want the idea of family and community and faith and country. All those things are really important to me. So, but then after Washington, I started a small business. And I discovered once again on the small business side how difficult it is, even in Connecticut, to have a business. They tie your hands behind your back. They over-regulate you. They overtax us. I am determined that if we deregulate the government in many areas, including the business community, we will thrive. I'd like to go back to what Ronald Reagan said about the people should be in control. All the freedom that we would have will result in prosperity. If we reduce taxation, we will see that more money goes into the national treasury, and we can pay it down, not use that, and call it a surplus to spend more money. We need to attack entitlements. There are so many things that we probably agree on all of them, so I won't go, the laundry list tonight. But I am determined to do it. I will be aggressive in this campaign. I've learned a lot. My name is out there now. I'm the only one running that has over 30 years of experience. I've done it. I've been there. I understand it. I didn't change before. I'm not going to change now. I will be strong. And my idea is that I'm going out there to serve you. And then when I'm done with the job, I come back home, and unfortunately one of you guys has to go down and carry on. So think about it. We need to get good candidates, not only at the federal level, going to D.C., but also in Hartford. There were too many places where we did not have anyone running to go to Hartford. How can we not put up a candidate? It just isn't right. We've got to really go after and be very aggressive and turn around the state legislature to the point where we don't have to deal with supermajorities or the fact that the Democrats can control the agenda. But that's got to be up to us as people, and it's a sacrifice, and I know it. And tonight I'm going to ask you if you could make a sacrifice, and wherever you are in your towns this year, go out and try and get involved, even if it's only spending one day making phone calls or doing door-to-door. If you can't spend a lot of hours, candidates don't care. They'd be happy to accept 1 hour of phone call from somebody because it all adds up. This is the only way we're going to do it. I did pass out information. I've got brochures, actually left over from last campaign because the issues are still the same. We didn't do enough this time. We've got to do it in 2012, but we can. I've also got business cards if you'd like to join the campaign. I'm open to phone calls anytime from anyone on the issues. I'm a strong advocate of, obviously, the Second Amendment. You take away my gun only if I'm dead. That's the only way it's happening at my household. You just melt my heart. That's the only way I can say it. It's like, yes, there's other people out there who get it. We're going to do it this time. And I'd love to take your questions, and I hope tonight that you consider even making a $5 donation to the campaign, because we will have to close the books for the quarter at the end of June, and I'd love to be able to tell people how many people are supporting the idea of limited government and reinstating our freedoms that we need. So are there any questions from anyone that could?
Make a point about going against the establishment as it is, and the one question I have is, as somebody who, I've been a little bit politically active the past year, I did go to the GOP convention last time around, and I felt like a sexual abuse victim taking a cold shower and washing the stench off of me. I mean, what was so horrible that I heard in the hallways at the convention were things like, you know what, if you give me him in this district, I'll give you Linda over here on our vote for here, and that sort of deal. How do you even go up against something like that when it's so established and that it's so infested in this city?
We didn't play those games, and I think that scared the heck out of the state party, because they didn't know how to handle us. We were principled, and we weren't compromising. I set a zero-tolerance policy on my campaign for what I considered poor campaigning, trying to do dirt to someone, even suggesting it. We kicked 3 people off of the campaign last time for simply suggesting it. And they told me because of that fact, I couldn't win the state convention. Well, guess what? You can remain principled, be in politics, and do it. Now, I have to admit, my 13-year-old daughter did come to me and say to me, "Mom, do we have to tell our friends that you're a politician?" And it didn't even hit me because I don't consider myself a politician. I consider myself one of you who has a skill set that would allow me to do the work that needs to be done in D.C. for a while. And all of a sudden it hit me, oh my gosh, I'm becoming one of those people. My daughter thought of it as a used car salesman type of job with the stereotype there. And I thought, we've got to change this. When I was young, we aspired to be in politics, to be president. Didn't we say anyone could grow up to be president, a doctor, a lawyer, a priest or whatever? Now, look at these things that we held in high esteem. Our country has changed. I'm determined to change it back. And believe me, it takes a backbone of steel because the things they say about you and the lies, I was totally ignorant of what they would try to do. And it's both sides.
Good response for your daughter is, I'm not a politician, I'm a representative.
There you go.
Because there's too many politicians in her.
I told them I'm a citizen. I'm just a citizen. That's the way I look at it. But, I'd love to have your support. One thing I'd like to mention, I don't know if anyone's following an issue with nuclear weapons, just because it's being involved a little bit close to that. The South Korean defense minister just announced that they believe North Korea now has the ability to launch a nuclear weapon on a missile. Now, it's hard to confirm that, but the North Koreans have for several years been developing things, and the issue was, could the missile stand the weight of a nuclear weapon? If it's true that that's happened, we really have to get serious when we send someone to Washington that they know what they're talking about in issues like this. Because the North Koreans are dealing with Chavez in Venezuela and other areas. They're selling medium-range missiles. We need to have someone who's strong on defense, and my background comes with dual-use nuclear weapons systems when I was at State Department and elsewhere working. I understand these military issues. I have that kind of a background. I've been in D.C. I don't have to get up to speed. I'm not a newbie going down to Washington. I'm somebody who's been there and stayed true to my colors. And when I go back down there again, I will not be afraid to speak out. I'm going to be an independent thinker. The Republican Party won't own me. Nobody's going to own me. I don't aspire to be rich. So it doesn't matter. I've got a little house here in Connecticut, and I'm perfectly content to stay here. I don't need to have Caribbean island vacation places, and I don't need to go play golf with people that are lobbyists. I want to spend as much time in the district, even though I'll be working in D.C. as I can. Because my idea is I need to listen to you, because I have to be your voice. And if I'm going to be your voice, I need to know what you think. So I know one thing. This group wants to keep their weapons. They want to follow the Constitution. Article 1, Section 15, is that right, for Connecticut? Second Amendment? I understand it. And I'm going to support it, and I'm going to work for it, and my door will be open to you if you come to D.C. or to a local office.
I'd like you to remind the politicians that are against the Second Amendment why nobody attacks our country here. Like the Japanese said, there's a gun behind every tree. And that's why we don't get attacked here. Because we can defend a line of people when they come to our shore.
We start to look at, I know you probably all know these facts. If you look at Australia, what happened to their crime rate once they banned guns? It's not a solution. All we would be doing is giving the Obama administration or whatever other administration came in the ultimate power to control us, which is dictatorial powers, and that is not what we're about. Our powers, it comes from a higher authority. It's not from the government, and we have to remember that no matter what they tell us. We have to go back in order to go forward. And when I say go back, we need to go back to the Constitution, to what the Founding Fathers talked about, read the Federalist Papers. They're not even teaching it in schools. September 17th is Constitution Day. Under the requirements of the educational system in Connecticut and elsewhere, they're supposed to be teaching about the Constitution during that week. I found the schools don't really do that.
Several states introduced initiatives to start U.S. history post-Civil War.
Mm-hmm. We've really got to be strong.
The Constitution is considered extremist literature by the people in Washington today. That's right.
Well, then I'm so glad I'm an extremist in defending it. If anyone has any ability to run for local office, to serve on your boards of finance or education, I know you're involved in this group too, but believe me, we need to bring sort of a bullpen of people, a team that's like a AA team or a AAA team to start to prepare them now for a year or 2 or 3 down the road. Or if you have young people, get them involved in politics to the level. My son says, "I'll do it, Mom, just don't tell them you're my mother." And I'm like, it's sad when we have to have young people that are afraid to speak up for our country and the Constitution. We need to change that. And the only way we're going to do it is we're the ones with the memory. We know what it was like when we were young in this country. And if we know what it was like, then we can tell the younger generation about that. And we can keep our country free, because I'm going to tell my children what it was like when I was young and I could speak on a street corner and not be told by a police officer, whether it's Detroit or any place else, that I'm not allowed to speak my mind. That's happened in America today. There are 13 states today in America where the court systems have referred to Sharia law and that they need to use ecclesiastical Sharia law. That is not my America, and I'm telling my children about that, and I'll speak about that on the campaign trail, and I don't care what anyone says, I'm not backing down. So I would love to have your support. You'll find that I have the intellectual ability to do it, the stubbornness to stay, and when I'm done, like I said, I'm coming home and I'll be back here in this group as a private citizen. Thanks very much. I really appreciate it.